Sterling Holmes with Fansided and Stacking the Box, and the back-to-school season is in full swing. But for some students, simple tools and supplies are scarce. Joining us today is NFL veteran Kelvin Beachum to chat about his work with World Vision, a Christian humanitarian organization, as well as his thoughts and predictions for this upcoming football season. Kelvin, how are you?
Doing well, man. Thanks so much for having me.
Of course. Thank you so much for being here. Obviously, you've shown the importance of providing for your community, for providing for the world. And you have this great partnership that you have ongoing with World Vision to help provide students with backpacks and school supplies. I know you recently were doing an event in the Phoenix area. Can you talk more about this partnership you have?
The partnership is 8 years old now. This is wild. I think this has been going on for so long, but it's been a fruitful, genuine, and authentic partnership with World Vision. Had the opportunity to do a number of things here domestically with access to the equipment that our young people need to be successful as they go back to school, whether that's backpacks, whether that's pencils, paper, books, what have you, just making sure that they're having, and may not, for those who don't have, to have some of those things that are needed to be successful as they head back to school. And then the work that, we've been able to accomplish on the global front, bringing access to clean water for those who don't have access to it. So it's been a very fruitful relationship, and one that I hold in very, very high regard.
Well, it's interesting, too, because almost like your playing career, you had to grind for it, right? Seventh rounder. It wasn't just handed to you, seventh rounder. And now you're entering 13 years in the NFL, right? I mean, has this even exceeded your own expectations from seventh round until now?
What have you, man? This is, the Bible talks about this, that God is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we can ask or think. And literally, this is not something that I could have dreamt of, not something that I could have thought of. This was not in the goals that I wrote down, a couple of decades, well, not even a couple of decades ago, but over a decade ago when I was in college. The goal, was to be on a team, make a roster, start, play well. Play well for a long time. I just didn't know how long a long time would be, and it's now going into 13. So, just taking it one day at a time, one step at a time, continuing to do the things that matter, and that's being consistent in the process. Continue to make sure I'm in the weight room, making sure I'm taking care of the body, making sure I'm taking care of the mind, taking care of the family. It's a lot more dynamics than it was when I was a rookie or second year player. I got, wife, maybe 12 years in February, been married for a while now. I got 3 kids, 9, 6, and 5. So, third grade, first grade, kindergarten. Sports is about to start here soon. So you got, soccer and flag and volleyball, daughters doing violin. And, this is just a lot of other external things that are taking place in this dad life that I'm in right now that is associated and in conjunction with the life of playing in the National Football League.
Yeah, you're a busy man now. Things change as you get older. You went from being the guy who's just making the roster as a seventh rounder, and now you're the elder statesman. What is that like, seeing the transition, obviously the family life, but as far as in the locker room, going from a young dude to now the elder statesman on what, again, an Arizona Cardinals team, that's very young.
Very, very young. I mean, the thing is, I'm asked to have conversations quite a bit with guys at different points in their career, and thinking through different scenarios in their career. And I think at this point in my career, it's the ability to be able to serve my teammates, serve this organization in this particular facet, and pretty much pour into the next generation, just like many poured into me. I think about guys like Max Starks and Willie Colon, Ben Roethlisberger, Heath Miller and Brett Kiesel, Ryan Mundy and Will Allen. These folks poured into me. James Harrison, these folks poured into me as a young player. And now I have the ability to do that same type of thing into the next generation of NFL athletes.
What was it like going up against James Harrison in practice? That had to be interesting, huh?
Yeah, welcome to the NFL. He showed me what it was really like to handle a bull rush. So, I got a lot of appreciation for him. Got a lot of respect for him. I've spent time with him and his family over the years. The same people that he used to take care of his body have been some of the similar folks that I've used to take care of my body. So, a tremendous amount as it pertains to recovery to the James Harrison, Mr. Debo. So have nothing but respect for him.
In the same regards, who is the toughest edge rusher you've ever gone up against?
Man, the thing is, that's a very hard question because I've played a number of them, man. Played T Suggs, twice a year in Baltimore. Kind of earning my way into the National Football League. Myles Garrett there in Cleveland. Had Junior Gillette in New Orleans, who took me to school as a young player. Tamba Ali and Justin Houston when they were, kind of running things in KC. I've played a number of them over the years, and as I've gotten older, Daniil Hunter, who's now in Atlanta, was in Minnesota. The list goes on and on. AD inside, Geno Atkins inside, Haloti Ngata, who played inside and outside, Calais Campbell. Literally, I could just keep going. It's a number of them that each one of them had a different type of skill set that made them unique, but also made them the player that they are. I think about Ndamukong Suh, who's played a long time. Linval Joseph, who played inside. BG, who's had a storied career there in Philadelphia. Nothing but respect for him. Petra Cox, who played inside. So the combination of those who played inside and outside. Nick Bosa, who I've played over the last 5 years now here in Arizona. And everything that he does there in San Fran. So, man, the list is pretty extensive of guys that I've had to battle against over the years.
I know you made a lot of Chiefs fans very happy when you said Justin Houston and Tamba Hali. I'm here in Kansas City actually right now. So we have a lot of Chiefs listeners. I know you made them very happy with those two names. With the Chiefs specifically here, the offensive linemen have joked about blocking for Patrick Mahomes because it's not just three-step drop, the ball's out. He hangs on that ball a long time. He's always looking downfield trying to make a play. But Kyler Murray's a little bit like that as well. It's almost more untraditional. It's not the norm. When you were growing up and you're in college and you're learning to block, you're not used to blocking for those guys. How big of a transition was it trying to block for these more newer age, always trying to make a play downfield type of quarterbacks?
I was fortunate, man, that I had Ben Roethlisberger early on in my career, and he was somebody that he would hold onto the ball to make a play that was putting us in the best position to be successful. And I think when you have a quarterback that is just a dog, like period, just a dog at that position, you do your job and they do their job. So if you got to hold a block for 7 seconds, you got to hold a ball, hold a block for 7 seconds. If you got to run around the field, as this quarterback can run around the field making plays, you got to run around the field making plays while your quarterback is making plays. So I think as an offensive lineman, your job is to control what you can control. And what you can control is making sure that your guy doesn't touch the quarterback. And whether it's, blocking for Ben or blocking for K1 or I know Trey Smith over there in Kansas City and him blocking for Mahomes. All you got to do is do your job, and he'll handle the rest.
Yeah. I think it was Trey Smith. That was the guy that actually came up with that question originally. He was just saying going from Tennessee and then Oklahoma and then to all of a sudden now Mahomes. It's different. It's just different. And I love talking to offensive linemen about this because I always say the offensive linemen don't get enough love. I don't think the average fan understands that the majority of the game is won in the trenches. Obviously, it's flashy when you play fantasy football, when you see the quarterbacks and the wide receivers. But I've talked about this. I want to come up with an idea of fantasy football, but for offensive linemen, where you guys get points for you win a rep. All right, there's a point. Give a sack or penalty. All right, that's a negative. We got to get the offensive lineman on board here for this.
I don't know if all offensive linemen will jump at that, but to have a fantasy just for offensive linemen, I think that's something you should pitch to Kelsey, not Travis, his brother,
Jason. Yeah,
Jason. And see if he could put that into because who is he commentating for? CBS now, ABC, one of the two.
ESPN. He's everywhere, man. Where isn't Jason Kelsey at this point?
Where isn't he? So, man, have him put together that. I think that would be pretty dope, man. But I agree with you. We don't get a lot of love, and the game is always won in the trenches. Now, there are plays that are made on the outside that can be, determining, turnovers and things of that nature as the ball has been, progressed down the football field. But at the end of the day, the offensive line and defensive line, that is where the game is won in the trenches. And when you see teams that invest in the trenches and teams that win in the trenches, those are usually the teams that, have a winning record and also are playing, January and hopefully February football. So many people don't realize that if those 5 guys are not on the same page, somebody will get hurt. Somebody will get hurt if those five guys are not on the same page. So that offensive line, the communication that takes place, the ability to make decisions on at the last minute, an audible that just happened with 6 seconds left on the play clock, you got to be able to communicate everything across the offensive line while being yelled at by 90,000 people. That is something that not every person on the planet can understand or utter. Can you understand the grunts of another man? As he's passing off a game. Can you understand the grunts of another man as you pushing him off of a deuce block or a B block on the backside? So it's things like that many people don't understand of the intricate nature and the intimate nature that takes place within the trenches.
Yeah, with some of those nuances too, it has to be hard when you're changing teams. I mean, this is your third team. I mean, every team is different.
Fourth team
now. Yeah, fourth team now. Every team is different. I actually have fourth in my notes, so that's on me for bad reading right there. But you're sitting here and you have to learn the schemes. You have to learn the playbook. Some of those nuances. How hard is it for an offensive lineman? We always think about the quarterbacks, and fans always give them the benefit of the doubt, right? They're going to give Kirk Cousins some time in Atlanta. We know that because he's a quarterback. Offensive linemen, they don't do that.
Yeah, you don't get that. But what's interesting, man, is offensive line play is very similar, whether it's from a conceptual standpoint, high school, college football. You got outside zone, you got inside zone. You got gap schemes, you got pin and pulls. Those are all kind of, table stakes. But everybody calls it something different. Some people call it a doom. Some people call it a deuce. Some people call it a tug. Some people call it a tag. Like there are different ways in which, people kind of put the verbiage around some of these things. And then sometimes technically, some coaches like lead step. Some coaches like high legging. Some coaches like, flippers when they're doing, the Rocker Crowther footwork. Some people like, hand, hip, hands. Like it's so many different ways that many people have butchered the ways of just playing football and putting your body in front of another person. You got to add language and all these. So it's all these different nuances that come into it. But at the end of the day, as an offensive lineman, your job is to take your hands and move another man a couple yards to get the quarterback, the time he needs, or to get the running back the hose he needs. That's fundamentally what needs to take place. There's been just a lot of language and jargon that's been around it, but at the end of the day, it's one man moving another man. And when you have two grown men fighting, for a couple months out of the year, there are going to be some injuries that take place. And fortunately, I've been, in the league where I've had some injuries, and I've been able to be fairly clean. But at the end of the day, it's a violent game that takes place among violent individuals. And hopefully at the end of the day, your name or your team has more points than the other team.
Great way of putting that right there. That's the game of football. That exactly. Right there, just put that right there in Canton. I do want to say, as a Mizzou alum, I would love to know how Darius Robinson has looked so far. We were huge fans of him, obviously, in college. He was just a phenomenal player, first rounder. How has Darius looked so far?
Man, I am a huge fan of D-Rob, to be honest with you. He's kind of banged up right now, but for the most part, man, he's had a phenomenal camp. He is going to be a problem in the National Football League. I'm just letting you know that now. You heard it from me. He is going to be a problem in the National Football League as long as he stays healthy. He's a very humble individual, comes from good stock, is a twitchy individual, and I'm excited to see what he does in the National Football League. But he is going to be a special individual for a very long time.
I want to talk about your trip to Zambia. This was really cool. You were donating, 3 wells of water. Can you talk more about your impactful trip that you had in Zambia?
Yeah, so a couple of years ago, we were supposed to go to East Africa COVID year, so 2020. Usually try to do something every two to 3 years, and things got stalled due to COVID. So went a couple of years ago and had the opportunity to go to Zambia. I donated personally 2 wells and then raised the additional funds for the last well through fan engagement over during free agency. I think that was in 22. If I'm not mistaken, and was able to go to Zambia and actually see those wells being put in place, seeing how it affected the community, how it impacted the community, not only from, hey, do we have access to clean water, but what are the jobs that come along with having access to clean water? What are the health benefits that come along with having access to clean water? Realizing that there are many mothers there in Zambia that have their children without clean water, to realize that those things were things that me and my wife got to go and see and sense and understand and talk to, was something that we really enjoyed, and something that I wouldn't trade for the world, and something that I know I'm going to take my kids on at some point as they get older, because it's something that you get from that human interaction that takes place when you're seeing some of the hardships that many people are going through. But something as simple as having clean water, what that does to somebody's life and to their psyche and to their ability to live life, much like we live life here in America with some of the pleasantries that we have here.
Yeah. Before I let you go, how can people get involved within their communities to help students better prepare for going back to school? Obviously, World Vision's done a phenomenal job, but how can folks help inside their communities here?
Yeah, something as simple as Believers for World Change, which you can go and look at on worldvision.org, is a great place to start. Allows you to find whatever you're passionate about and spend time there. I'm always available on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, X, Kelvin Beachum Jr. But I would say at the end of the day, man, find out what you're passionate about and allow, your heart to take you where you want to go. And that's where, things ended up for me, was finding what I was passionate about, which was being able to end kind of hunger, both domestic and worldwide, and be able to add access and provide access to clean water on the international front. And it's been something that, like I said, been doing now for 8 years with World Vision, and excited to continue doing with them.
A badass, both on and off the gridiron, Kelvin Beachum. Kelvin, really appreciate it, man.
Yes, sir. Anytime.